mysterious kingdom which ancient Egypt traded with for over 1,000 years that is lost to us today. A kingdom so sacred the Egyptians themselves called it the land of the gods. And its exact whereabouts is a complete mystery to archaeologists today, although mummified baboons have revealed its biggest clue, but we'll come back to those a little bit later. Let me introduce you to the mystery of the lost land of Punt. Alright, before we get started, I just want to apologise for my appearance. It's really hot right now, and I'm just like sweating so much. I've also got a really bad hay fever at the moment, so if it looks like I'm crying about the lost land of Punt, I probably am, to be honest, because we still haven't found it. Okay, let's get started. So for over 1,000 years, from the Old Kingdom to the reign of Ramses III, Punt was ancient Egypt's most prized trading partner, and a kind of long-term partnership like this one was really quite rare in the ancient world. And the ancient Egyptians absolutely revered Punt. They called it Ta Netjer, the land of the gods. For them, it was a place where the earthly and the divine blurred together, seemingly also connected to their goddess Hathor herself, who they literally titled the Lady of Punt. So we can imagine that for the ancient Egyptians, sailing to Punt would have been so much more than just a trading trip. It would have been a sort of pilgrimage. But what made Punt so sacred was surprisingly very practical, because Punt had the one thing Egyptian religion couldn't run without: incense. Myrrh and frankincense and other fragrant resins that burned at every temple, every ritual, carrying prayers up to the gods as smoke. Egypt's entire spiritual machine ran off incense, and some of the very finest of it came from Punt. Okay, my room smells pretty nice now, to be fair, but anyway, that's just the beginning of a long list of goods that Punt supplied to Egypt. The ships definitely came home riding low in the water, with ivory, ebony, and glittering electrum, even sometimes live animals like giraffes or baboons, and the baboons, remember, because we're going to get back to them. So how long did this all go on for? Well, the first record appears in the Old Kingdom around 4,500 years ago, carved into a slab we now call the Palermo stone. It logs a haul brought back under the pharaoh Sahur with precious wood, electrum, and like loads and loads and loads of myrrh. So Egypt was sailing to Punt within a century of the Great Pyramid going up. And then they kept going back for more than 1,000 years. One of the most famous voyages was that of Queen Hatshepsut, and her whole expedition was carved on to the walls of her temple, with the ships, the sailors, and the land of Punt, a guy called Parahu, and his queen Ati. Even the homes were depicted as stilted houses which could be reached by ladder, and it's still the most detailed picture of Punt we have. But this relief, as beautiful as it is, was not a documentary, it was propaganda. Queen Hatshepsut built it to glorify her reign. We're not seeing Punt as it was, but what the Egyptians wanted it to be remembered. Everything we know about Punt, we know by just taking the words of the Egyptians. But luckily, we're not working from just carvings alone. Just getting to Punt was an epic in itself. When the river route south was blocked, Egyptian crews took their ships apart, hauled the timbers across 100 miles of desert to the Red Sea coast, and rebuilt them on the far side. So at that coastal port, a place they called Saw, archaeologists have found the hard proof. Ship timbers, stone anchors, and cargo boxes still inscribed with the words, "The wonderful things of Punt." So we know people did definitely sail there. But then it stops. The last great expedition to Punt was under Ramses III in the 12th century BC. After that, Punt simply fades. The name appears less and less, and then not at all. The most sacred trading partner in Egyptian history quietly slips off the record and off the map. Because in all those centuries of carvings and depictions, tallies of myrrh and gold, not once did the Egyptians actually write down where Punt was. No coordinates or map, not a single ruin that we can point to and say, there is Punt. It must have been so obvious to the Egyptians that they never needed to, and no other civilization left a word about the place. So, for more than 150 years, the question that has haunted everyone that has gone looking: if Punt was real, which it clearly was in my eyes, then where on earth was it? Before I continue with this Lost Land of Punt video and get into the candidates, please do like and subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more videos like this one. So, where is Punt? For over a century and a half, people have thrown darts at the map, and a few have landed wildly off. Some pointed north to Syria, but Punt was always a land said to be to the south, reached down the Red Sea, so Syria could never fit. Others looked east to India, but Egyptian expeditions came home within a year, and those ships were far too slow to reach India and back in time. Set those ones aside, and the real contenders all cluster in one place, the bottom of the Red Sea, where Africa and Arabia almost touch. The only question is, which side? Let's start furthest inland. Early scholars place Punt up the Nile, in the highlands of Sudan. The plants and animals in the reliefs would fit well enough, but the Egyptians didn't march to Punt, they sailed. They built seagoing ships, dragged them across the desert, and launched them into the Red Sea. A landlocked kingdom can't explain a story so obviously connected to the sea, so for me, Punt moves to the coast, which takes us across the water to Arabia. Specifically, southern Arabia, modern Yemen, is a great homeland of frankincense and myrrh, the very resins that Egypt craved. Hamadryas baboons also live there. One scholar even argued that Punt straddled both shores of the strait, a foot in Africa and a foot in Arabia. It's a genuine case, and it never entirely goes away. But look how Egypt drew Punt. The reliefs don't just show traded goods, they show a country, stilt houses, incense and ebony trees, and a land roaming with African animals, giraffe, rhino, even a long-legged secretary bird. Now obviously animals can be carried far from home, but a wild bird is no one's cargo, and it's the whole scene together, the flora and the setting. This is just my interpretation, but for me it all reads unmistakably African. And there waits the crowd favourite, Somalia. It's the answer you'll hear most, and a strong one. Somalia grows what many call the finest frankincense on earth, with a reputation for incense stretching back to antiquity. The case is so embedded that in 1998, an entire Somali state renamed itself Puntland, after the kingdom that we're chasing. So, I absolutely love their confidence, but is that case closed? Well, not quite, because here, my favourite baboons finally have their moment. Baboons aren't native to Egypt. Every one the Egyptians kept was shipped in. So in 2020, scientists took mummified baboons from Egyptian tombs and read chemistry locked in their teeth and bones, strontium and oxygen isotopes, a kind of fingerprint of where an animal grew up. They matched those mummies against 155 living baboons from 77 sites, every place Punt could possibly be. The result was clear. These animals were born outside of Egypt, in the Horn of Africa, a band running through Ethiopia, Eritrea, Djibouti, and yes, Somalia. So the baboons had confirmed the neighbourhood, but they couldn't yet name the streets. And the case for Somalia was still very much alive. The science had to get sharper, and 3 years later it did. In 2023, researchers went past chemistry to DNA, focusing on a single baboon mummy recovered over a century ago from a place called the Valley of the Monkeys, now held in a museum in France. Ancient DNA is very fragile. Out of a whole batch of mummies, only this one could give a readable genome. But it was enough. Its signature matched living baboons, not across the whole Horn, but especially in Eritrea, Ethiopia, and eastern Sudan. The needle slid off Somalia and on to the Eritrean coast. On that coast lies the Bay of Zula, a long, narrow inlet with two facing shores, matching old Egyptian descriptions of a sea framed by land on both sides. The cattle in Hatshepsut's reliefs also seemingly resemble breeds still raised in Eritrean highlands today, and the pottery Egyptians left behind at their Red Sea port traces back to the lowlands of this very region. Baboons, geography, livestock, ceramics, the lines all converge on one stretch of shore. There's even a name waiting there. Centuries later, this coast was home to a famous trading port called Adulis, and some researchers now suspect Punt and Adulis were the same harbour, 1,000 years apart, one kingdom remembered under two names. It's the strongest answer we have, but it's not proof. No one in the area has unearthed anything we can call Punt. So a few scholars still hold out for Arabia, and maybe Punt was never a single location at all, but a wide-reaching trading network gathering the precious goods of Africa. After 4,000 years, the lost land of the gods has finally came into focus. Not pinned just yet onto a map, but narrowed by the bones of sacred monkeys onto a golden African coast at the edge of the Red Sea. Thank you so very much for watching this video on Punt. Please do like and subscribe if you've enjoyed, and let me know in the comments down below if you think I'm completely wrong and Punt is somewhere else. See you in the next one.